We are live here. It is Tuesday, another Tuesday. And guess what that means? Tuesday at 7 p.m. It's Audacious Confidence time. Yes, it is. It is the Audacious Confidence show here on Dramaniac TV. I hope you're having an amazing start of your week. And tonight's topic is really a fun topic. It's really a fun topic. It's all about the imposter syndrome. Yes, it's that dreaded imposter syndrome. And so we're going to do a somewhat of a dive into that. So I am your host tonight and your guest tonight. So we're going to have some fun because I am your host, Alicia Couri, and I am here to influence, educate, inspire, and entertain you so you can step into your own audacious confidence and be more, do more, have more, and live the life of your dreams without limits or restrictions. And I'm so excited to be here tonight. I know usually I am introducing a spectacular guest who is joining me, but tonight I thought I would just take a step back and kind of do this show on my own tonight because I wanted to really dive into this topic of imposter syndrome. And I have, it's been a while since I've done a show all by myself. And so you got me. This is it. So for those of you watching, hello, hello, hello. We are broadcasting live on Facebook, on Periscope, on YouTube. And so on Facebook, we're on the Audacious Confidence Show page. We are also on the Dramaniac TV page. So welcome, welcome, welcome. So those of you out on Periscope land, make sure that you are free to engage with us as we go down this road tonight. So what exactly is the imposter syndrome? Well, I used to think that I was the only person kind of experiencing this. I used to think that I was never quite good enough. I was never quite the right person for the job. And so when you are experiencing the imposter syndrome, what happens is you always feel like you're a fraud, like any minute now, they're going to find out that I don't belong and they're going to hire somebody who is much better than me to replace me because I'm just not the right person for this job. And so it becomes this thing. And the funny thing is when you look at some of the people who it has affected, it's really remarkable. People like Meryl Streep, people like Sheryl Sandberg, they've all said that they've experienced the imposter syndrome. How incredible is that? Maya Angelou, Tina Fey, comedian extraordinaire. Meryl Streep. I mean, is there not a better actress out there than Meryl Streep? And for her to feel like she has experienced that, kind of makes me feel a little bit better about myself. I hope it makes you feel better about yourself too. So let me break down a couple things for you, and you tell me if you have ever experienced that. So I talked about the feeling of feeling like a fraud, but there's also this feeling like I don't know enough. I really don't know enough to be in this position. Why are they putting me in this position? I remember when I was probably around 10 or 11, I think 11 years old. My family had moved back from Australia, back to Trinidad. And it was my last year in elementary school. And I was asked to read this passage over the morning announcements for the whole school. And I was petrified. I was completely petrified to have to do that. Not only because I felt like my confidence clearly I wasn't that great back then anyway, so I didn't have a very strong, I didn't have very strong confidence. But in addition to that, I had an accent that I was so desperately trying to get rid of. I had an Australian accent that I was trying to get rid of. And now I'm being put in front of the entire school body to read this passage with words that I'm probably going to say that people are going to giggle at, because I got teased mercilessly for my accent. So people are going to giggle at the pronunciation of some of the words that I would say. And I was petrified. And the whole time I kept thinking, why are they asking me to do this? I am just not the right person for this. I'm not good enough. And that plagued me all the way through to the point of when I actually had to read. I practiced and practiced and practiced and practiced so much that that I knew it. And I was standing there and I was shaking and I was reading it, but I survived. I survived and everybody cheered and it was great. But I remember that feeling of just not being good enough and being so scared that I'd be ridiculed. And so having that expectation that someone is judging you and they're not going to think that you're good enough, because that's kind of where it comes from. You believing that they're not going to think you're good enough, far less you believing you're good enough. So over time, I've realized that every time I had to step into something bigger than me or bigger than what I had become accustomed to, bigger than what I've become used to, I would have this feeling of inadequacy, complete inadequacy. So tell me if you've ever felt that feeling of inadequacy, because a survey says that 70% of the US population at some time or other in their lives have experienced this imposter syndrome. So I know many of you out there have felt it. You're just not saying it, but you felt it. You know you have. This feeling that you're not good enough, you're not pretty enough, you're not tall enough. I'm telling you all the stuff that I used to feel, right? You're not tall enough. You're just not smart enough. Oh my gosh, that's such a big one. I am not smart enough to do this. They need to pick somebody else who is more qualified than I am, somebody else who knows more than I do, someone who has, better credentials than I do. And so this becomes a never-ending cycle in your head. And thankfully, you are here today watching this, whether you're watching it live or you're going to watch it on replay, and you have an opportunity now to reprogram and reframe some of those things, some of those thoughts, some of those things that are holding you back, because I'm going to give you some tips. I'm going to give you some tried and true tested techniques that you can start to employ in your own life to kind of overcome some of those hurdles. So when you start feeling that mini little panic attack, you can reach into your tool bag and start using some of these tools. All right, deal? So I'm not going to go a whole lot long tonight. Hey, Carliana, I have found myself feel that way only when I'm around businessmen. They can be intimidating, but I know you, Carliana. Oh my gosh, you are incredible. You are so smart. Yes, even though you're just as qualified or even better than them. And sometimes the male energy can be overpowering. And if you are not, hi Angelita, and if you are not confident within yourself, thank you, Zena. I'm more than good enough. Thank you. If you are not confident within yourself, then that can start to show up, feeling that kind of nervousness. And so I'm going to give you some tips to kind of step into so that you can when that starts happening, you can recognize it first of all, and then you can start to overcome it. So just recently, I was asked to do something I was asked to do something that took me out of my comfort zone. And I'm going to talk about this pageant that I did not too long ago. And that took me way out of my comfort zone. I mean, actually stepping on stage at a pageant. You know, I've never done a pageants before. It was never on my radar. It was never something in my life. And so putting myself out there in that position, of course, I started to feel like, I don't belong here. Why did I say yes to this? This is way out of my comfort zone. Hey, Daphne, nice to see you. And so stepping into that, I started to feel, just slightly feel, that I don't belong here feeling. It didn't last very long because I know how to recognize it, but it still does happen for me. I still feel it. And I know so many people see me now and they see, this confident, audaciously confident woman, but they don't know, or they haven't seen me as the person that I was when I did struggle a lot with my own confidence, my own self-belief, and my own feelings of not belonging anywhere or not feeling good enough. So I'm telling you right now, I know how you're feeling. It's painful. It holds you back. You sit back after the fact and you say, why didn't I? And you have that regret and that remorse, and you think, I should have, shoulda, coulda, woulda. You go through that whole thing in your mind, and then you think, okay, next time I'm going to do better. But then the next time comes around, you still don't do it because you didn't develop the tools to be able to overcome these things. So now that we've kind of encapsulated what the imposter syndrome is and what it means and what it feels like, because it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good to feel like you're inadequate. That doesn't feel good. So now let's talk about what are some of the things that you can do for yourself to overcome that. All right. So in the next segment, I'm going to start tackling some of those things. So thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Alicia Couri. I'm your host tonight and your guest on the Audacious Confidence Show. And we are live streaming here on Dreamaniac TV. And we are live on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Periscope. So hello to all of you out there who are watching. Now, when I talk to my clients and when I talk about, starting to build up that strong, audacious confidence, the first thing I want you to really start to work on is your core. When I do personal branding, the core is the main thing, because when you have good posture, if you do any kind of physical activity at all, if you've ever had a trainer or ever listened to a trainer before, the first thing they do is they talk about your core. Daphne, have to do the inner work to build your confidence. Yes, Daphne on Facebook. Absolutely. You have to do the inner work. And that's what I'm going to talk about. How do you start doing that inner work? So core for me is spelled C-O-R-E-E. So I have two E's. So first of all, your confidence. You have to start working on your confidence. And confidence comes from awareness of where you actually are. Because if you're not aware of where you are mentally, in your confidence, you can't start building from there. So you need to start building awareness of what your confidence really is in certain situations. Like Carliana said earlier, that when she is around businessmen, she starts to feel a little bit intimidated. She starts to feel that way. And so if you, if you find that there are certain situations that your confidence is not as strong as other situations, that's where you have to start to work on. All right. So then the O, you need to understand how you are oriented in this life. What are your values? What do you stand on? So when you know where you're oriented and what your values are, and you need to write these things down because not everyone has the same values. What do you really value? And you can tell what you value by how you spend your time and your money. That will tell you what you really value. So really sit down and think about your values. What do you value, and in what priority do you value them? And you can share those values, start sharing those values out with people. Yes. So then the next thing that you have to look at, so you start recognizing where you're confident, where you're not. Look at your orientation and your values. Then let's look at your relevance. Are you relevant to society? Are you relevant in what you're doing? Are you relevant in your peer groups? What is your relevance? And the last two E's is your experience and your expertise. When you start understanding those things, then you have a solid foundation of who you are. So when you step into a situation and you start to wonder about if I'm good enough, lean back on your experience and your expertise. Of course, I'm good enough. I've done this, I've done that. I have this experience. I've been, I've been awarded with this. I have all these awards. What is your experience and what is your expertise? Lean on those things when you are faced with a situation that you start feeling a little bit like your confidence is starting to wane, or you're starting to feel that imposter syndrome creep in. Understand your relevance, stay up to date, stay informed, be in the know so that you are relevant to any topic that's coming up. All right. So lean on those things, lean on your core when you start to feel a little bit shaky. So then I started to think about what can I really share with you again that as a reminder, because some of you who have been following me kind of know some of the things that I'm talking about, but some of you may not have heard me talk about these things before. So I have 7 steps to audacious confidence. I have 7 of them that I go through and I talk and I share and I train people in to help them build their confidence. And in those 7 steps, the first thing I want to do before we get to those, because I'm not going to go through all 7 tonight, because then this becomes a masterclass and not a show. And so what I want to share with you is something called the Johari Window. So that when I talk about a few of these steps, it will be in reference to the Johari Window. So the Johari Window is a psychological terminology, and there are 4 quadrants. I had a graphic, but it was teeny tiny. It was so small, it wasn't fitting on the, you wouldn't see it properly if we put it up on the screen. So you can look it up, the Johari Window. So there are 4 quadrants to the Johari Window. The first quadrant is the open quadrant, and it's kind of what is known about you. So this is an exercise in self-awareness. This is an exercise in getting to know more about you. All right. So that first quadrant is the open quadrant. That's the stuff that people know about you and you know about you. Certain facts about your life. The second quadrant below that is the hidden quadrant. That is stuff that you and only you know. Sometimes it's positive things, but you just haven't shared it yet. And sometimes it's things that only you want to know. And it's your right to know, and you don't have to share it with anybody. And so sometimes in that hidden quadrant, there are things about you that other people should know that can help them make a decision about you. And that's where authenticity comes in as well, because if you allow some of the things in your hidden quadrant that are really great things about you, like I remember I do a lot of volunteer work. And there was a time as well that I I was doing my theology degree. I was getting my degree in theology, and it was something like I was on the PTA for 9 years. I did a lot of work with the schools and everything, but it was not something I readily shared with a lot of people. Emotional Intelligence 2.0, great book. You're reading it now. The quiz showed me the personal investment in development. Good that it paid off. It does pay off when you do personal development, because you get to know so much more about you, and you can be more effective and more productive to society. So a lot of the volunteer work I did was in my hidden quadrant, because I didn't share that stuff with a lot of people. When I went to get my theology degree, I remember at the time I was doing personal branding. I was actually going through a personal branding course with my coach. And she kept telling me, why don't you talk about this stuff, on social media? Why don't you talk about, doing your theology degree and all the volunteer work that you do and all of this? And I'm like, nobody's going to care about that. Nobody wants to know about that stuff. Because I was doing that as hey, Dianara, I was doing it really because that was in my heart to do. It wasn't something I was doing to broadcast to the public. It wasn't something I was doing to get brownie points. It was just me. And so it's not that I was hiding it, but it was hidden because people didn't know that about me. So there might be some things that are hidden about you that don't necessarily need to be hidden. And it helps to improve and increase your brand, by the way, it does, because you get more connecting points of connection with other people. Then there's the blind spot quadrant. And in that blind spot quadrant, people, there are a lot of things that you don't know about yourself, but everybody else knows. Other people know about it, and you don't know. And it's really important to start surveying people who know you. Start asking them questions, because in that blind spot area could be so many little gems, so many things, gifts and talents, and so many things that you have that you're not even aware of because you just do it. And so that blind spot area is an area of where people know things about you that they can share with you and help you develop more confidence in yourself. You didn't know that about me? Which part, Daphne, that I was a PTA mom for 9 years, on the board, president, and all that stuff, or the theology, that I have a degree in theology? Because I do. And then the last quadrant is the unknown quadrant. And that is something that you have yet to discover about yourself, and others still have to discover about you. And that's an exciting quadrant. That's so exciting because you don't know sometimes how you'll react to certain things until you put yourself in those situations. I remember my coach, the same coach I was doing branding with, when she told me I needed to be a speaker. And at the time, again, my confidence was not in speaking. My confidence level, I believed about myself, this was my own belief, was that I belonged behind the scenes. I was doing hair and makeup, and I felt very comfortable there, that I am the makeup artist, I'm the stylist. Yeah, a lot of those things, people will connect with us. And that is why I started sharing some of those things about myself. And so I believed I was not someone who needed to be on stage. I was not someone who needed to be in the spotlight. I needed to be behind the scenes. And that's kind of where I put myself. And so the first time she told me, she says, you need to be a speaker. And I said, no, nobody wants to hear what I have to say. I need to be behind the scenes in front of my makeup chair. That's where I belong. So that was one of those areas of the unknown quadrant and the blind spot quadrant intersecting, because she saw that in me that I didn't see in myself. And I really didn't know how I would react as a speaker. And people, like, she just had a sense that I should be, but she really didn't know how I would be as a speaker either, until I stood up in front of the stage and started to speak. And lo and behold, I discovered I'm a speaker. Yay! so, so when you look at the Johari window, start looking at areas where you can start writing out in the open area, what do people know about me and what do I know about me? And then start to discover more about yourself. Like what is in my hidden quadrant that nobody knows about me, but things that I can start to share, and then start asking people about yourself. What is your experience with me? How do you see me? What kinds of things do you see in me that I'm not utilizing enough? And that'll kind of give you some of that groundwork for that core that I was talking about, for your core to help build your confidence. All right. So I told you about the Johari window because I want to next talk about 3. So we talked about 4 quadrants, and I'm going to talk about 3 of my audacious confidence tips. These are tools that you can use for yourself anytime you start to feel a little bit shaky about your situation or whether you belong somewhere or not. All right. So get ready, get ready, get ready. So I am going to wrap this up very shortly. And I'm not going to like, through it. I am going to walk through it, but I want to be able to not keep you here all night either. So first one that we're going to talk about is called, this is my first of the audacious confidence tip. Theology is speaking. Yeah. So I did get my bachelor's degree in theology, and I studied really hard biblical studies for several years to get through that, because I was doing that for my own edification. I was not doing it to tell people, "Oh, look at me," and I was not going into like the ministry in the sense that I was not trying to be a pastor or a preacher or evangelist or anything like that. I was learning for my own enlightenment, my own edification, so I can be a better me. Right? So my number one tool in the audacious confidence, and this is why I talked about the Johari window first, is to know yourself and love yourself. Know yourself and love yourself. The Johari window will start giving you some of those insights. But also another tool that you can use are some assessment tools. There are many assessment tools out there. There's one in particular that I use, which is called the Kolbe assessment. I'm not going to go into all of that, but it's Kolbe, Kolbe assessments. There's also Myers-Briggs, there's DISC, there's Strength Finders. I have done probably 6 or 7, maybe more assessments on myself that are both personality assessments, IQ assessments, and cognitive assessments. So those are the 3 parts of the mind that are at work. It's your cognitive, how you think, and that's an IQ assessment. Your affective, how you feel, that's a personality assessment. And your cognitive, how you do, and that is a cognitive assessment. So start really understanding who you are, how you were wired, how do you react to things, what is your programming. Start understanding those things about yourself, and then start loving those things about yourself. Start loving you. A lot of times we feel insecure about ourselves, and we get into that imposter syndrome because we don't love ourselves enough. We don't have enough self-love. Sad to say. So we have to get into that position where we can start loving everything about us, the good, the bad, the ugly. Accept it all. Love it all. You can then work on changing some of the things you don't like too much, but have self-love as a whole. All right. So know yourself and love yourself. I'm going to skip on down to 4 because I think number 4 in my 7 secrets to audacious confidence is incredibly important. And that is your spiritual tags. That's what I call them. Your talents, your assets, your gifts, and your skills. And you know, there was a quote I was gonna give you on the first one, number 1, which is know yourself and love yourself. There's this quote by Albert Einstein that I really, really like. And it says, he says that if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, the fish will always think it's stupid and inadequate. So, and part of knowing yourself and loving yourself, understand your limitations as well as your strengths. Because if you compare yourself, or if you try to do something beyond your limitation, like a fish cannot climb a tree. I will never dunk a basketball unless Shaquille O'Neal lifts me in the air. All right. So I understand that there are certain limitations that I am just not capable of. But that doesn't make me a bad person. And that doesn't mean that I can't do other things. Listen, I may not be able to dunk a ball, but I can surely hit a 3-pointer, you know? So, hey, so there you go. So look at your spiritual tags. What are your talents, your assets, your gifts, and your skills? And so when you start cataloging those things, then you really start to understand, wait a second, I am qualified for this. I am worthy for this position. I can do this, because now you have more of a foundation of knowing more about you. Next time, I'm sorry, so the next one after your talents, your assets, your gifts, and your skills. And I want to say something about, because people often ask me, what's the difference between your gifts and your skills? You know, like what differentiates them? And so let me tell you. So your talents are those things that you do that's so instinctive to you that you don't think about it. And so sometimes you might be put in a position to do something and it comes so naturally for you that you diminish the value of it, because you think, this is nothing. This is a piece of cake. It's a piece of cake for you. It's not a piece of cake for everybody else. I am a talented makeup artist. Doing makeup, I can just visualize it. I can do it. Not everybody can do that. And I devalued that gift, that talent that I had for a long time. And it is also a gift. It's a gift because I believe your gifts are things that you have that are in service of others. So you do something that is in service to someone else, that is a gift. Your assets are things that you have accumulated for yourself, things that you've learned, things that you've developed. Those are your assets. I talked about gifts. That's something that you use, that you give back to others. And then skills are also things that you learn. So your assets are things that you have acquired over time. So if you had to create a commercial for yourself, what would be the benefits that you would kind of, let's say you had to create a profile for yourself. What are the benefits that you would share with other people of who you are? So that's kind of your assets. And then your skills would be, what have you learned? So techniques that you've learned, things that you've accomplished. Those are skill sets that you have now, that specialized knowledge or experience that you have gained as well. So now the third thing that I'm going to share with you, which is one, if you've heard me talk about this 100 times, it is one of my absolute favorite tools that I have ever used that I love, love, love. And that is the alter ego effect. Oh my goodness. I love this. I love this tool because it allows you the opportunity to step out of your own insecurities and step into this persona that you've created that is like you times 100. It's like your superhero self. So the alter ego effect is creating a persona, creating, like, you can take inspiration from other places. Like, I love J-Lo, right? I love J-Lo. I think she's powerful. I think she's intelligent. She's super talented. She is just phenomenal. And so I look at those traits of her confidence, her poise, her grace, and I'm like, I could do that. But my alter ego, really, the alter ego that I created for myself, I actually ended up embodying, which is so surreal. Because my alter ego, when I first started using this method, I started employing this method in my own life. My alter ego was the beauty queen. And so, and it kind of has lived out in real life for me now because, yeah, like if I turn my camera, is it over there? There, I have 2 crowns right there. There are my 2 crowns. So the alter ego effect, it is so powerful. Beyonce uses it. So many, I mean, Elton John started creating it for himself until he became it. I saw Oprah earlier this month talking to Lady Gaga. They were down here in South Florida, and I went to the BB&T Center, and she was talking about creating Lady Gaga, which was an alter ego for herself, because she felt so insecure about Stephanie. Stephanie was so insecure that she had to create this alter ego that became Lady Gaga. And she said the most remarkable thing, which has really happened in my own life, is that the more that Lady Gaga was out there, the bigger Stephanie became. And Lady Gaga gave Stephanie permission to be. Lady Gaga gave Stephanie the permission to be. And the more Stephanie became, the less she needed Lady Gaga. So now the two have intersected, and Stephanie and Lady Gaga are one. So she doesn't need, so if you've noticed, she's not as flamboyant and as theatrical as she was before. She's still Lady Gaga, but then it's not really necessary for her to be this over the top personality anymore, because now she has given Stephanie permission to step into her greatness. And so that's what an alter ego can do for you. It can give you the permission to step into your own greatness. And that is such a powerful thing. And so develop your own alter ego, develop this persona. Like, if you can imagine yourself, what would be the greatest ability, the greatest opportunity for you to step into when you have to go do something? How do you envision yourself? How do you see yourself accomplishing that? And then create that alter ego for that and step into it. And so as we come to a close tonight, thank you so much for all these amazing comments. Thank you, Daphne. I think there was a couple other comments that were made as well. Yes, I see Angelica, love the alter ego self-transformation. Yes, it truly, truly transforms you. When I started to use, because as a speaker, I started to use the alter ego effect for myself, because I really wanted to, hey, Gemma, I really wanted to be able to be the person that I knew I could be, but Alicia was not powerful enough to be that person. And so I developed the Beauty Queen because I look at all the sort of the qualities of a beauty queen, you know, the poise, the grace, the unflappable nature. You know, you can ask them anything and boom, they're not, you know, they can be humorous, they can be, and I just looked at that and I thought I could embody that. Thank you, Daphne. Thank you. And so, hello, Yvonne. Thank you so much for joining. You're good. Make sure you hit that notification so you can get notified when we go live. And so, thank you, Daphne. I really appreciate that. And so, as you walk through the next few days, you know, I hope you took notes. If not, watch the replay again and take your notes. But look at the Johari window. Look at the 4 quadrants and see how you can start employing that tool in your life to start getting more self-awareness. And then look at those 4. Yeah, yes, Daphne, I did manifest the beauty queen because then I stepped into it. And even though, right, I had a moment of, do I really belong there? I stepped into it. And once I made the decision to step into it, there was no turning back. I was like, I'm off to the races. This crown is mine. I'm coming home with the crown. So I just went there and I had the most amazing time. But really look at your core. I gave you like 3 big chunks of information to try to digest. So look at your core, your confidence, your orientation and values, your relevance, your experience and expertise. Then, of course, check out your Johari window. Start seeing where you can take things that are hidden and put them into the open category, and ask people in your blind spot what things about you that you don't know about. And then finally, you know, look at those 3 of the 7 secrets to audacious confidence. Get to know yourself and love yourself. Take some assessments if you have to. That I know my producer's trying to keep up with how fast I'm going. I'm trying to shut down the show. Your spiritual tags, your talents, your assets, your gifts, and your skills. And then, of course, if you want to do this fun exercise, create for yourself your own alter ego. This is Alicia Couri, and I'm signing off. Thank you so much for joining me. Until next time, you dream big and we make it happen. Thank you so much again. Mwah! Have a great evening and enjoy the rest of your week, everybody. Bye. Hey, Alicia here. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed that episode of the Audacious Confidence Show, check out more of the episodes that we have right there. And don't forget to leave a comment, subscribe, and hit that notification button so you don't miss another episode of the Audacious Confidence Show.